hard work doesn't equal success. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to work hard, because you have to work really hard to be successful, but pure hard work won't make you successful. Otherwise, bricklayers would be billionaires. Do you know what I mean? So that was another interesting thing. It's like, just because you work really hard doesn't mean you'll be successful. And that also sort of translates into like when you're scaling a business and hiring a team, you don't have to do everything yourself. Like, doing everything yourself doesn't mean that you will be more successful or deserve success more than someone else who has hired someone else to do it.
Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Push Podcast. This is the podcast where we explore the real stories behind what makes entrepreneurs and business owners the successes they are today. I am Jack Ferguson, a small business growth strategist, and I will be your host. I believe the best way to learn and be inspired is to listen to the experiences and stories of those you respect. Their real experiences, their real story, warts and all. Honest storytelling is what this is all about. Show notes can be found at bethepush.com/podcast, and don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you are listening to this. Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today I am speaking to Mitch Hills, founder of Mastered Marketing, a digital agency that helps socially conscious organizations to grow their revenue and awareness with proven marketing strategies. Now, this isn't Mitch's first time on the podcast. He sat down and spoke to me about 5 years ago. So if you want to hear a little bit more about his early story, please go back and listen to that episode in season 1. But a lot changes in 5 years, and interestingly enough, Mitch wasn't far off shutting his tech company down when we chatted last time. Naturally, that is one of the first things we discuss in this episode. We also chat about the good and bad of startup culture, how niching can go wrong, what to do when you're working in an industry with people who don't align with your values, the pivotal moment and story that pushed Mitch to leave this niche, why he quit DJing, what stress and a run of bad luck can do to someone. So Mitch had a particularly hard 2020, and we discussed that at length. What going on a health retreat can do for your body and your mind, and of course your business. What forgiveness can do for your growth, and how he doubled his business's revenue. We talk real numbers and discuss how he did it. This episode got very deep, and we explore a whole range of topics. I appreciate Mitch being so open about so many deeply personal experiences. Some of what we cover isn't easy to talk about. But without further ado, let's bring in Mitch. Mitch Hills from Mastered Marketing. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back again.
It's good to have you back. It's been almost 5 years since we spoke last time on the podcast.
It's crazy, right?
We're recording this in August 2021, and the last episode was released in September 2016, the 20th of September. So it may have been recorded around the same time as we're doing it now 5 years ago.
Wow. Gee, a lot's happened in 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, for both of us, but also a huge pandemic. We live,
we
live in a weird world from 5 years ago.
Yes, 18 months ago, things went a bit awry.
Bit sour.
Yeah. But what I thought, where I thought we'd start, because if people want to hear a lot of things about your early story, they can go back and listen to that first episode, which was 5 episodes in for me, I believe. So you were one of my evangelists. So
one of the day ones.
Yeah, thanks for believing in the push back then. Or it was called Be the Push back then. But yeah, you were running Mastered Marketing. You just started it when we spoke last, and you were running a tech company as well called Aroundabout. Yeah. And you stopped running that tech company. Yeah. Tell us about when that was in relation to when the last episode was released.
Yeah, gee, it'd be close. A few months, 6 months at the most.
Right.
Which is really interesting, because I sort of would have been... It's funny, when we were talking, I was probably reflecting on things and decisions that I was about to make. So without going down too much of a rabbit hole, yeah, I think that would have been towards the end of me deciding, okay, what do we do now? So I'd started marketing, which was sort of making some money. And then I've got this other startup, which is just a black hole of money with no sort of end or strategy in sight. And I remember I was getting an R&D return at the time, and I was going to get a little bit of money back. And I go, do I put this back into the abyss or do I, call it a day and start to cut my losses and move on to the next thing? So that's what I ended up doing.
Right. And can you tell us a little bit about when you decided to when you made the decision to end a roundabout, because I understand it was a phone call with your uncle was the catalyst for that.
Yeah, it was sort of two things that were happening. So the first one is my lack of experience and just doing an app and not really having a solid business model in place. The goal was just get enough users and then you'll figure it out, or we'll sell it, or we'll make a marketplace or something. So I hadn't really thought that out well enough. So when I realized what would actually involve that is making, like, just for people who are unaware, it's like it was a tourism app. So it's kind of like finding cool stuff to do and eat and drink in wherever you're living and other cities you're going to. Now, if you have lots of places on there, you can then ideally charge businesses to advertise on it. But you need a lot of users to be able to do that. And you need to have a platform for the businesses to use, like a merchant side of the business, which I didn't have. And I'd already spent a fortune and it was going like fine, but not great. So that, facing the reality of like, if I were to do that, that's going to cost a lot of money and I'm just going to be a slightly worse version of Zomato. Or this R&D, and that combined with the fact that I'm getting the R&D return, do we call it or do we keep going? And I was like, I called my uncle to see what he thought. And he said something that I've always remembered. And he said, quitting isn't the same as a strategic retreat.
Nice.
Which, I've probably butchered the words, but around that thing of like, it's okay to come back or to call it, in order to win the overall, lose the battle, win the war type thing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, you're right. And then that was it. And it was a really awkward moment when I was like, okay, well now I got to like stop updating it, stop that in the app, take the marketing down. It was a pretty anticlimactic ending to a very time-intensive journey, but here we are.
How long did you run that company for?
Maybe like 2 years.
Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 years. And it's another one of those good examples of, in marketing, we talk a lot about vanity metrics, so metrics that look good but don't really mean anything. And so that app was a perfect example of a lot of vanity metrics, a lot of followers, a lot of press, a lot of like downloads. But unless you've got daily active users, monthly recurring revenue, all those really important metrics, you can easily get caught up in the hype. And I think that's, we were talking about the tech space, like that's very common, where it's just a lot of smoke and mirrors of, they're in the Career Mail, they're on this, like it must be successful. When realistically, the journalists are just looking for something to post about. And they use press doesn't make you money. It just makes you, seem successful, but when you're not actually.
Absolutely. And was it the moment that you got off the phone to your uncle that you actually decided, that's it?
I think it was, yeah. Okay. Because I'd also had started to make money from marketing. Yeah. Because I was doing websites for people. And I think I'd done a couple of websites and I was like, I could actually make money from this versus this other thing. And this is a really interesting conversation of like, it's easier to make money with a small business, but the upside is much lower. So that's kind of what startups are about. It's like big risk, big reward. But there's also a thing in startups where it's like, never quit, like do it, like, yeah, Gary, because like bleed out of your eyeballs, hustle 16 hours a day, make it work, when that's not always good advice. No. And I say to my team sometimes, like if they worked really hard on a campaign or a design that doesn't work, I'm like, the market doesn't care how hard you tried. The market doesn't care. But I spent all this time and effort and money on the app. It doesn't matter. If it's not what customers want, or if it's not like a business model that makes sense, it doesn't matter how hard you tried.
True. And I've seen that recently actually with someone I know has bought a house and they feel like they've bought it at the wrong time, and they did it after 200 odd inspections. And what's really rocked them is...
Wait, they inspected it 200 times?
No, they went to 200 inspections to find a house to buy.
Gotcha.
And then the price of houses have gone through the roof in Brisbane. And then they've sort of succumbed to buying one that they perhaps didn't want as much as others, but the hard work or the effort in that situation hasn't equated to the outcome that they think they deserve.
Yeah.
So you can see when that happens in people, it is drilled into us though, that put a lot of effort into something, you get a reward.
So that same uncle has said something really interesting about this. He's like, hard work doesn't equal success. Now that doesn't mean you don't have to work hard, because you have to work really hard to be successful, but pure hard work won't make you successful. Otherwise, bricklayers would be billionaires. Do you know what I mean? So that was another interesting thing. It's like, just because you work really hard doesn't mean you'll be successful. And that also sort of translates into like when you're scaling a business and hiring a team, you don't have to do everything yourself. Like, doing everything yourself doesn't mean that you will be more successful or deserve success more than someone else who has hired someone else to do it. Do you know what I mean? So
absolutely,
it's an interesting one.
And what does hard work mean to you? Because personally, I don't actually like the phrase very much, because I think it's so context dependent, and hard work can sometimes, I think, be an excuse to not think smart.
Yeah.
Oh, I put in all this effort, but you did it stupid.
Yeah.
It was stupid to do it that way. So
I totally agree. But then some other people are like, well, you need to work smart, and other people are like, I am working smart and hard. Just do both. Like, it's an oversimplified statement. Like, you need to sort of, like you said, context really matters. And so for me, what does hard work mean? Look, you got to do it. It's more about persistence. Like, never give up, and just keep going, and try not to cut corners, and do what do the best that you can.
I like that. That's good.
And like, be self-aware enough to know, should I be doing this? Should someone else be doing this? Like, when I was doing the app, I had to do data scraping. And for some reason, me and Jose, we used to do this thing called hustle marathons, which is so ironic because it was like so much hard work that was so unnecessary. But because we're working hard, we're like, oh, we're killing it. We're not.
Right.
So bless his soul. He's such a great guy. But we would get like all these snacks like Starburst and Doritos and stuff, and sit down at the living room table and just scrape all this data, because we had to get all the pictures for restaurants and bars and all that stuff, because the person we hired a VA to do it, and they did like 6 hours work, and we're like, no, this is wrong, so we did it instead of me actually giving better instructions and showing how to do it properly. We would have spent 50, 60, I don't know how many hours on stuff that could have easily been done by someone else. So that's not working smart. Now, some people go, I saw a really good quote from Noah Kagan the other day that said there's no award for being the most busy. So it's like, just because you're doing stuff doesn't mean that you should be doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a roundabout way of what my definition of hard work is. But like, persistence. Don't be lazy, but also be smart about it.
Sure. I think the persistence, that's a good one, because to me the hard things to me are when things go wrong. That's when it's really hard, in my opinion. Because when things are going right, you're just cruising along. Your systems are keeping up. The processes are all there. It's all good. People are happy. Clients are happy. It's when things start to go wrong that I think it gets difficult. And
the willingness to do that is hard work. Because some people go, oh, I don't want to. Or I shouldn't have to. And they have this really entitled mentality of like, well, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, well, too bad, because that's part of having a business. I see some people, or when they just, they come to an obstacle and they stop. They go, oh, I hit this obstacle. So, and I'm like, is that it? Is this just where you call it a day? Like, what else could we do? If that didn't work, what about this? If you had to do something, if you were going to die and you had to do something, you could do something. This isn't the end of the line. Yeah. But some people are like, well, I don't want to do that. Too bad. So to me, it's like doing the hard work. Working when you don't want to is a really big one as well. Like, most of the time, having a business is really hard and not that fun. But the upside is great. So you can't have the good stuff without the bad stuff. Yes. So I think when people just don't want to do the bad stuff, I don't want to do invoicing, I don't want to do the marketing, it's like, too bad. Just do it,
Yeah, nice. I like that breakdown. But I want to go back to when you finished up with A Roundabout for a second. So a relatively young man at the time. How was your ego? Bruised at all after having to shut down that company?
Yeah, I don't know if it was ego or more disappointment and kind of sad. I was like, damn, like I failed.
I worked hard.
Yeah, I worked really hard and it didn't work. And now, but like look, everybody's ego's involved in something. And maybe through the process, I really don't like people with big egos. So I try to be self-aware and as humble as possible and very real. It's okay to be confident, but you got to be able to say when you're wrong and apologize when you're wrong and take it on the chin.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people can't take it on the chin. They quickly blame others, where I'm like, hey,
That's on me.
it's on me. That one's on me. So also there was no time off. There wasn't like, I'm going to sit and reflect. Like most people when a business, if they sell a business or a business fails, they sit and reflect. I just went straight into the next one because it went from, okay, how do we grow this company to, oh shit, how do we pay back this massive loan that I had?
Mm.
So I went straight into that. And like, even though it didn't succeed, it helped me succeed in the long run. And I learned so much from it. And now I'm designing another software, but doing everything that the opposite of what I did the first time. And I love it. It took me to where I was. And if I could do it again, I would do it again 100 times over. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to look at the big picture
Yes.
rather than each individual
Yeah.
moment.
It's okay to lose the battle.
But
Yeah.
I mean, your ego hurts a little bit naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, though, I understand that you went into a specific niche in mastered marketing.
Yeah, that's a couple years in.
Oh, really? So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
didn't start out niching out.
No, I started with websites because I had a lot of fun. I was doing all of my own marketing with a roundabout, all the everything, social media, email marketing, PR, web, everything. But the websites I was quite good at. So I started doing that for other people and then branched out into other services, social media and stuff like that. But I didn't start, I think when I went into real estate was like maybe 1 or 2 years in. Because in marketing, it's a good idea to go niche. It's a good idea to be a specialist rather than a generalist. Not always, but like oftentimes that's a good way to do it. Or even if you're a specialist in one service, like I do Facebook ads or I do this. However, you got to be careful what you wish for because we became quite successful in that space. And so we then rebranded to a real estate marketing company, which I did for a while. But then, yeah, and we'll get into this, but I don't regret that decision. I just found after a while, I realized I was really burnt out. I didn't really enjoy the work and I just couldn't stand a lot of the people I was talking to. And I didn't share any values with them at all. Nothing against real estate agents in general. Like I've got good friends and clients who are still in real estate, but like there's a lot of them that, I mean, it's not like I'm saying any secret. Like a lot of people find
we
real
all
estate
know
agents
this.
insufferable. So,
Yes.
like for any real estate agents watching, nothing against you. You know just as well as I do, there's some bad eggs in the industry.
Yeah, I don't think there's any real estate agents listening, so
Okay.
don't worry about that. But so how did you decide to go into that niche in the first place, though? So you've obviously worked a couple of years. You've taken what's come to you, I'm guessing.
In real estate or marketing?
No, in marketing, and then over time you've sort of seen that a lot of them have been real estate clients, have they? And then you decided to niche. How did you decide to do that?
I got into marketing because of all the app stuff I was doing. Marketing I enjoyed the most. So project management with the development I didn't really love. Accounting, all that. You wear all the hats in business, but marketing I loved.
Yeah.
And I was always coming up with creative ideas, and we did some really cool campaigns with the app. So I was like, let's do that. I was just doing it for fun. I was just designing other websites literally for fun, and I think that's a good way to start any side hustle or whatever, which may become your main hustle, but do stuff you're curious in. And so I started working with Ben Wakely, who I still work with. He's a legend, real estate agent. He's an anomaly. But great guy. And he became quite successful. And then because he's well known and it's a very like everybody knows everybody type of industry, they saw that and then saw me on the bottom of his website and saw us and referrals. And then we sort of built up. And I thought I remember I had a client come in from like hospitality or something, and I had to relearn everything about that industry. And I was like, it'd be easier if I specialized in what I know works over here, and we'll just do that because it's easier to scale and systemize. And it was. But now I'm a real estate marketing company, which I don't really want to be. I wanted to be it for a while, but then I got to a point where I was like, but it was just through the first client, then the second client, then eventually it was like half of my clients were real estate, and then more and more, and then
Sure.
I
Just
thought,
made sense.
Yeah, now it's like weird that this one person isn't, so it just sort of became that. But one thing was websites. I always did any industry.
Okay.
It was just for the social media and stuff. It was heavy on the real estate.
Yes. And that would be easier for doing copy and all that type of things if you specialized in an industry, I assume.
Yeah, and I could figure out like what works in real estate, and also if one client did something successful, I could help my other clients with it.
Yes.
So it worked out well for everybody. except eventually I just got...
Except for you.
Except for me. The clients I had were great.
Yeah.
Most of them. Like, I would say 80% of the clients I took on were wonderful. But, geez, like, just the leads I had to speak to and I cannot... Yeah. I would have spoken to, I don't know, 500 agents, and the overwhelming majority are just, like, not seeing it. Like, I'd say, you know, what makes you excited about real estate? Why? And they just like, I want to buy a Lambo. I'm like, fuck, like, I want cash. I want money. And I'm like, okay, dude, I'll tell you this one story. I don't know if I shouldn't. I met someone and I went to a meeting and it was talking about, and it's funny when you walk in, they just assume that you're going to work for them and just bend over. It's like, they started talking as if we'd already, I'm like, I haven't decided if I want to work with you. Like, cool. So I want you to do this, that. And I'm like, just calm down, okay, for a second. I've already decided in my head. They're like, mate, I want to see ROI. I want to see ROI. Like, I'll invest if it's making ROI. And it's like, well, if you put in 1,000 and you make 2,000, anyone would do that. Like, that's, but unfortunately, that's not how business works. Like, if you put $1 in a vending machine and $3, of course you would. But you know, if it were that simple, I'd be in real estate and I'd be a billionaire. Anyway, but that wasn't the thing that bothered me because that's standard. The other thing was, talking about content. And like, I used to do stuff in the community like ages ago. I don't do nearly as much anymore. In fact, I don't really do any, but you can just make it look like I do with the old stuff.
Oh.
And I was like, you're a horrible person. So that's like saying, hey, I donated to Sea Shepherd 2 years ago. I don't anymore, but just post like I do and just use the old stuff. How about you just do more in the community or don't talk about it, but don't trick people into thinking, I was just like, this is why I don't work in this industry. Because money, not only that, like the narcissism drives me crazy, but like money is God and they want more of it and they want to spend less of it.
Yes.
And I'm like, I struggle because I think more people should donate to charity and give back to the community and do stuff that actually makes a difference rather than just squeeze as much money as possible out of every single person I talk to so I can buy a newer Mercedes.
Yes.
I just think if you have no, not saying no values, like I'm not saying that the lack of it, but all they care about is money. There's no, and for the amount of money you make, especially in this market where everyone is just in that industry is making an absurd amount of money, not because they're doing any extra work, it's just because the market is flying.
Yes.
And still so few do anything for the community. It drives me mental. So that's why I switched, because I wanted to do something where I want to use my skills to help someone that actually makes the world a better place, rather than just, I want to have a newer car than this person. I want to buy a sick watch. And it's just like, it's so material. And I'm like, I want to make a bigger impact.
I can definitely relate to the idea that the world revolves around them, because even sometimes when they're offering a new lease and this type of thing, they will talk as if you'll just agree to whatever they are offering you. I remember once for me that I wanted 12 months, I think, and they offered me 4. I'm like, I bet I want 12. Like, why would I do 4? I'd sign that and I'd almost have to be worrying about the end of that lease. But they wanted it to sort of hit the end or hit January. So the lease ended in January, so that was a high demand time of year. Right. And so they could, I assume, jack up the price. Yeah. But why am I going to just agree to that? What, just to suit you?
It's strange. Like, when we're doing the marketing, from a marketing perspective, and I say this to my team and clients, everyone, no one cares about you. They care about themselves. So let's always, when we're doing content or ads, make it about the customer. So perfect example, in your marketing, this is a quick tip for people, anytime it says we, us, our, make it your. So if I say, we make really good websites, it's like, well, so does everybody. But it's like, you will have an amazing website that'll make your friends jealous. That's much more like, look at what you're getting versus what I'm selling. Real estate agents really don't agree with that. Don't agree, they just refuse to do it. It's like, look at me, look how much I sold. And it's like, sold this for a record price, like I'm the number one agent in this area. It's like, you just rubbing it in your buyer's face at the moment. Like, you're just telling them that they overpaid for the property. I got 100K more than reserve. I'm like, the buyer feels like an idiot now. And yeah, there's a lot of tactics that really bother me, and it drives me up the wall.
Right. So did you take on that client that you were getting dictated? So you said no?
No.
Okay.
God, no.
No. How did you break that news?
I just said it was a conflict of interest and I couldn't do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How is it a conflict of interest if you're doing work for all these real estates anyway? You've already got a few conflicts.
Yeah. I just sorry, I can't.
Okay.
I didn't want to be like, no, you're a narcissistic borderline sociopath who, yeah.
Right.
The narcissism drives me mental, especially
Yeah.
because I really don't like. There's only one thing worse, and forgive my language. There's only one thing worse than an asshole, and it's someone who's an asshole who pretends to be a great guy.
That's
that
true.
really bothers me because
Yeah.
if you're an asshole but you just own it, whatever. At
Yes.
least you're authentic.
Yeah.
But
And we
people
know
who-
then.
Yeah, but people who are like wolves in sheep's clothing, like act like. This is the last thing I'll say about this. If your home is worth $1 million, right? If an agent comes in and sells it for, you get another 50 grand. That's great. That is useful. But they act like they built the home and nurtured it from a baby. It's like, if you are uninvolved, my home is still worth $1 million. It's like a personal trainer helping me gain 2 kilos of muscle and taking credit for my genetics.
Yeah.
It's like, anyway. I told myself I wasn't going to rant too much about it.
No, rant about real estate all you want on this podcast, man. I do understand there was a tipping point with a certain client, though.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this was the one that put me over the edge because it bothered me for a while, but I was like, hey, look, it's just the industry. It's not like grass is always greener. Not everyone's going to be Mother Teresa, whatever. But this one they ticked all the boxes. They were narcissist, misogynistic, micromanaging, like stingy, manipulative, like everything that's wrong with the world was embodied in this person. And it trickled down because their whole agency was just full of the worst people.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it. And it was meant to be a quick project, but the last 5% dragged out for nearly a year, and I was like, I can't do it. Like, it would keep me up at night. I'm like, I hate is a strong word, but I don't hate anyone, but God, if I could just I would pay for them to go away. So I ended up saying, hey, keep your money. I tried this in the past, like hinting at, hey, can we work something out? And I was like, yeah, no, guys, keep your money, and you don't have to pay me the thousands of dollars you owe me, but you have to sign this agreement. And I was like, here's a referral to another person. They're happy to take the project. You have to sign this agreement that says, I will not help you with anything ever again, and if you contact me, I won't reply. And got them to sign it, and then that was it. And then finally enough, of course, they contacted me later, and I just didn't reply. Oh, can you help me with this? I'm like, I'm looking at my screen being like, how do I say no in a way that is strong enough for you to hear what I'm saying? No, I cannot stand you. I hope you fall over later.
Silence will do it. That's what'll do it eventually.
I'll just checking in. Did you get my email?
Yeah. But yeah, that's a very interesting clause to have in your agreement that do not contact me.
I just wrote it like, there's no template for that.
No.
I just thought, okay, what's everything? I don't want to deal with this. I will do this because I didn't want any way to wriggle out of it because they'd wriggled around everything else. And like scope creep, they just didn't seem to respect that at all. I'm like, here's where it says this, but they wouldn't do it. So I'm like, okay, read this. It's short. It's 1 page. Sign it. I'm out. And then I literally rebranded my entire agency so I didn't have to deal with those people again.
Yeah, wow. That's powerful.
And now it's better than ever. So,
yes. And how did they react when you got rid of them?
Well, knowing them, they love money, so they got to keep the money, so they weren't too upset about it because they were like, if you don't do it, someone else will do it. And I'd sorted it all out. Here's how they're going to do it. Here's all the logins and everything. So I was the big loser there. But the funny thing is, sort of, yeah. But the funny thing is, like, they hit me up later, like, hey, we got great compliments, but like, as if nothing had happened. Like, I literally think the way they treated me is how they treat everybody.
Yeah.
And the fact that is normal is what worries me about the industry. Because you treated me horribly. And I'm like, you must do this to everyone for you to come back and think we're mates. Like, we're not mates. I hope you fail.
Yes.
Anyway.
That's pure delusion.
Yeah. I was like, is this narcissism? Is this delusion? I don't know. But mate, all of them. But yeah, that was where I was like, no, I cannot do this again. And I know that not everyone's that bad, but like just the thought of having anyone, because you don't know at the start. That's the thing. It happens a lot with marketing. It's like a job interview. Some people interview really well, and then you get started and like, and sometimes I'm like, I say to Kaz, my fiance, my project manager, I'm like, I hate being a good guy sometimes. Like, even though this person doesn't deserve it, I can't help. I have to do the right thing. I have to do the job properly. My dad always taught me that, mate, Mitch, don't cut corners.
Yeah.
Do it right. And then I was like, this person doesn't deserve it. Why am I doing this? So yeah, I called it.
Surely you've developed things over time that you can better screen for the right type of clients though for you now.
Yeah. I certain questions I ask, and I'm really not, like, we don't need clients at the moment. And that's a huge tipping point.
Which is amazing, yeah.
It's a huge tipping point. Sadly, like, the good guy in me, so it's like, I don't want to leave him hanging, so I'll help him out. And then that ends up dragging into this other thing. But I'm pretty good at getting a vibe for people, just the way they talk. I ask certain questions that are like open-ended questions, because all of them are always like, yeah, I'll invest if it's making money. It's like, well, anyone would. Like, okay, how do you determine return on investment? And depending what they say is often a good indicator. And if they've never done marketing before, and my friend Tom made a really good point of this. If someone, so he runs a big ad agency, and if someone comes to him and they've never run ads, he doesn't work with them.
Yes.
Because he's like, I've got to sell you on the concept of ads as well as my services. It's just too hard. If you understand ads, then you come to me, I'll make them better for you. Versus just like, I saw on a blog, Gary Vee said you should run ads, so I'm going to hire an ad agency. And then I invest a couple $100. I'm like, okay, where are my 40 customers? It's like, it's not like that. So
yes, and at least once they've perhaps I like working with people who've been burnt before, not because they've been burnt, but because they have a comparison.
Our happiest client, they got absolutely torched before us.
Yeah,
and they just cannot believe, but they thought that's like what it's just normal. Yeah, but I do like when someone has gone to someone bad and come to us, and we've been able to make their life a whole lot better. Versus someone who's never done anything, and they think, if I've never done marketing, as soon as I do marketing, my business will explode. It's like, no, it's not quite that simple. Or they've been basing it off like, all my referrals convert really highly, so that's exactly how cold leads will also respond to my business, but it's not the case.
No, definitely not.
No.
Right, very interesting. So what I want to touch on before we go further in your story, though, is that let's chuck DJing into the mix. And you did talk about this in the last episode as well. But you were still DJing as of the time in the last episode. You were still running a roundabout.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a roundabout, but I want to hear...
3 jobs in one at the
time. There's a bit going on. So you went and started doing mastered marketing, but you were still DJing, to my understanding.
Yep. That's how I paid back the money.
But you've stopped DJing now.
Yeah, I stopped in when COVID happened.
Okay.
And I was cutting it. I loved to DJ. I didn't need the money, so I cut down doing the sets I didn't like. And I just did, eventually it was just one night a week at Birdie's because it's a whole lot of fun. It's great to see the boys and they're great business, so it's great to see everyone. And then COVID happened. And then when there were hours, I felt I didn't want to take it away from DJs who needed it because a lot of them were doing it tough. I have another income, so it'd be pretty dick move of me to take money away from the people who need it because I'm doing okay.
Being the good guy again.
Yeah. Good karma. I think it comes back around in some way. But yeah, so I stopped and then places started to open up again, but I'd sort of like adjusted out of that. So now I'm like full normal work schedule versus one late night a week just kind of throws me out completely. So yeah, I mean, I do miss it. And I miss seeing everybody, but I come out from time to time. But yeah, it was a very anticlimactic finish to an 8-year career.
Right.
It wasn't like a big send-off party or anything. And I probably could do that if I wanted to, but I'm an old man now. So. Right.
And so it was mainly COVID that pushed you over the edge? Like, I'm trying to work out how you made the decision.
It wasn't a tipping point. Like, it wasn't like, I was like, I have to get rid of this. I love DJing. I still would do it. I love music. I just wasn't doing it for money. I was doing it for fun. And COVID was like, well, I have to stop. And then when it came back, I was like, I probably don't. It would kind of throw out. I'm too busy now because it's been a year since then. So I've sort of picked up a lot of extra work and the business has grown. So I probably couldn't work Thursday night real late anymore. I mean, I could, but also my DJ equipment needs upgrading. Right. And I was like, it's going to cost like a couple $100. I'm like, I'll make $1,000 of new equipment. I'm like, Yeah.
Well, you said in the last episode that you don't want to be the 30-year-old DJ. So so 5 years later, we can say that looks like that's not going to be the case.
No, I think like when I was 21, I realized that. So it was never a lifelong thing. Music is a lifelong thing, and I have so much respect and love for all the people in that industry. It's just not for me long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. Plus, I need more stuff to do during the week. I like to work, and some people love working only like 3 nights a week, but I'd go crazy. I need to do something during the week.
So what do you do now?
Marketing.
No, but during the week, like at night and stuff, are you referring
go to sleep.
Okay. Okay. I thought you meant on top of your business, but no.
Yeah, no. I mean, like some DJs do like Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and the rest of the week they just do nothing.
Okay.
Which is a problem in itself.
Okay, I see. You're referring from the other angle. I know what you mean.
Now I work long hours during the day and sleep at night.
Yeah. Perfect. And so after this, COVID's hit. I understand it was a pretty tough time for you though last year, not just because of giving up the DJing, but that a lot of things kind of blew up at once. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, I think it was July. So this time last year.
July 2020, that is? Yeah,
July 2020. So combination of things all sort of came to a tipping point. I didn't get stressed out about like one big event. Like if there's a big thing that happens, I'm pretty good at handling that stuff. But when it's lots of things, even if it's lots of little things added on top of each other, it's like a Jenga stress pile, and it will fall over eventually because you just know sane person can handle that. Everyone has a tipping point. So for me, it was, COVID was stressful, but like not that bad. It was COVID mixed with burning out from work. Like COVID aside, I was just getting so sick of real estate agents and starting to feel a bit trapped by it because I'm like, even if I want to, I can't. I got a team now. I'm stuck here. One of my best mates died in a motorbike accident like a year ago, and it was still sort of lingering. And then my dad had a heart attack, which was stressful, had a quadruple bypass. And then for about a 2-week period, about 3 different physios and 2 doctors thought I might have a brain disorder because I had these really bad cramps in my forearm. My arm would like lock up, and remedial didn't help. Needling didn't help. Magnesium didn't help. We tried all this stuff, and they're like, look, don't freak out, but just go get an MRI. And I was like, what for? They're like, just want to rule it out just in case it's something like MS or something like that. And I was like, don't freak out. What are you talking about? Like, all my work is with my brain. Like I went into just a spiral. So all those things combined, granted, I think most people would probably have a bit of a mental breakdown if all those things were happening at the same time. It was just one thing after the other. And I was like, oh my God, like it's never ending. Thankfully, I'm all good. I had the MRI, but it was like 2 weeks of waiting to find out. And Dad survived. It's statistically incredible that he's not dead. Like he had 3 out of his 4 arteries, or however many they are, completely blocked. And the 4th one was like a pinhole. And he had a heart attack, and he thought he'd eaten bad soup.
Yeah, wow.
He thought he had food poisoning. So he went to the doctor for that. They did a test, and they're like, you could die any second. Like if you pick up a kettle, you may die. So thankfully, he's all good now. And then coming out of that, my mum, for my birthday, bought me a accommodation at Gwingana, this health retreat. It was a surprise, but then Kaz told me because she's like, I don't know if you want to go, so I want to tell you that it's coming. I didn't want to go, but thank God I did, because it was the best possible thing that could have happened, and that sort of kick-started the recovery. So I had like time out, time to think to myself, learn how to meditate properly, got back into exercise, like just did all the things you should do to get your mental health sorted. Saw a success coach, saw a therapist, all that stuff. And now I'm better than ever.
Right.
And I think like more people need to be okay being like, I'm not Superman. You know what I mean? Like I'm a pretty strong-willed, persistent, hardworking guy. And I do think, without sounding like wanky, I do have a higher stress tolerance than most people just from having a business and
yes, that'll do it.
All that stuff. Yeah. But everyone's got a tipping point. And there's people with way more stress tolerances than me. And I think people think stress means I'm having a panic attack and need to go to hospital. Whereas that's like the far end. Whereas you can be stressed all the time, you just don't realize.
Yeah.
And that will add up.
Yes. Well, the hospital's a lag indicator.
Yeah.
It's not a lead indicator.
Exactly.
So.
And it's not like, feelings, heebie-jeebie thing. Like it is biology. Like you will have more chemicals in your body that are causing your body to react in other ways. Like people have heart attacks from stress. They have immune systems that go down because you're like, stress is really bad.
Yes.
For your body.
Yes.
And so people like, no, I'm not stressed. It's like, it's okay to be stressed, man. Like there's nothing wrong with it. There's a stigma around like, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen type thing.
So much to touch on there, but firstly, I'll mention that I did see your Instagram stories around what your arm actually looked like when this was happening, and it did actually look like your hand was possessed.
Yeah.
For anyone listening, like it would clench and unclench, from what I saw, and
my whole forearm would just like cramp up, and then because I was anxious and stressed at the same time, like I started to overthink it, and then it would happen in other places.
Oh wow!
And I had a friend of mine who had a similar thing happen, but he was just anxious and freaking out, and then like you subconsciously have a really good mind to muscle connection. And you start doing it. It's you doing it, but you think it's not you doing it. I remember one night I was lying in bed and my arm was cramping a little bit, but then my bicep started twitching and I just panicked. I was like, "Oh my god, it's spreading! Like, what if I can't have kids? What if I'm in a wheelchair? What if my family has to take care of me? What if I can't walk my dog?" Like, you just go into this spiral of panic. And then you get the MRI, which is an experience in itself, by the way. I don't know if you've ever had like a full body MRI.
I haven't. Do you have to just lie there, or?
Yeah, it's so funny. I'll keep this short, but like you go in like a full tube, and they put a plate on your face so that your head doesn't move. So you're like in a tube with a plate on your face. And it's funny that she was giving me earplugs and earmuffs to put on, and she was like, "Oh, I'll tell you when to do something." I was like, "Well, how am I going to hear? Because I'm like doubled up here." And it's really funny because they were like, "Don't swallow, because it can ruin the like imagery." But I didn't know when that was going to be. I'm like, because you guys, "I'll tell you when you need to do the not swallowing thing," but I couldn't hear her. So I'm trying not to swallow the whole time, which by the way is the hardest thing in the world. If I tell you not to swallow, all you want to do is swallow. It's like, don't think about penguins. All I can think about is freaking penguins. And yeah, and then I swallowed and she's like, "Can you not do that? Like, it's ruining the imagery." I'm like, "Woman, do you know how hard this is to do?" But
She probably would know.
She probably would know. Yeah, credit to her. But yeah, thankfully I'm all good. There's nothing wrong with me. It was just like a motor tick.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw that and I just remember thinking, wow, like what could that
He's done.
be? No, I didn't think that, but I felt for you because I just thought that would be that's such an odd thing to happen, to lose control of a part of your body would be.
And then it was weird because like I thought I was losing control, but I also wasn't. Like I was doing it to myself.
Right.
Like it would happen, but then I could like pull my arm out of it.
Okay.
So it's kind of more like
you could override it, kind of.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's why they were like, something's weird, but also like if you flex your arm, it'll go a bit tighter, whereas this would go like rock hard. Like it's like really like spasming almost. It was weird. Yeah. We still don't totally know what it is, but at least it's not a brain disorder.
Yeah. And it's not happening anymore.
Well, it's weird because I can do it on demand now.
Okay.
Because I've like done it. It's happened so many times. But then I can also, now I can make like my hamstring cramp up. Like I've got like this weird subconscious like mind muscle connection now, which is weird. It's a very useless superpower.
Well, good to hear it's somewhat under control there by the sounds, and good to hear that your dad's doing all right.
He's great.
Yeah, that's good. And so when this is all going on, you do the health retreat, which, by the way, you said, I don't know if you remember this, on the last episode you said you probably should do one, but you're not going to anytime soon. I was actually doing one. I wasn't doing a health retreat. I was just pissing off into the wilderness for a couple of weeks, about 2 weeks after we recorded.
Right.
And so it's interesting that this podcast now, you're talking about going on a health retreat, which you said you should have done 5 years ago, and now you've jumped into it.
Because I didn't voluntarily even do it. My mum, bless her soul, knew like this is what you need. And my brother is so nice, but like they could see how stressed I was, and he bought me like a float tank voucher, and then my mum got me the retreat, and like they know me well because it's just what I needed. And it's not easy. Like I wouldn't say it was enjoyable. Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't fun. It wasn't going to Bali and having cocktails and riding mopeds around. It was like exploring the depths of your mind and being surrounded by complete strangers and not having a phone. And it's like a really important, and like it's not fun, but it's also not fun. It's just kind of like you go somewhere that you haven't gone before or in a while. I think a lot of people, it's Instagram, Netflix, like they're constantly stimulated.
Yes.
Which one could argue is also a distraction from your inner mind and conversations you probably should be having with yourself. Like everybody sort of knows what their demons are. Everyone's got something. Everyone's crazy in their own way. It's like me, I worry too much. I overthink things. Some people have got insecurities. Some people have got self-doubt, whatever. But they never confront it because they're like, oh, no, I don't want to. To do that means I have to admit that I'm not as good as I wish I was. So they don't do it. So they watch Netflix, and where I just need time to sit and reflect. And I think like a big thing for me is if I feel a certain way, I explore why. I'm like, why do I feel this way? Like if someone says something and it really bothers me, like that shouldn't bother me. Why is that bothering me? Okay, well, let's look at blah, blah, blah. If I feel sad, why am I sad? What's happening? If I feel amazing, that's great.
Just leave that one.
Yeah, I'll just leave that one. I'll just write that one out. But I think like that's something that more people should do. And I started doing it when I was in Thailand, and a very close friend of mine, he came over with me, but he had to go back to Australia. So it's like 9 days there where I'm completely by myself. And I made some friends over in Thailand, but I wasn't with them like all day. And I remember riding from beach to beach, because in Thailand you can ride, it's like a 20-minute ride between one beach and another in Phuket. And just having time to myself to think and ask myself questions and see what my mind is doing. Like Noah Kagan said as well, like embrace the quietness, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in your head. It's like when you're in the shower and you have really good ideas. So imagine that more often. And I should do that more often as well. I try to do it, and that's like journaling's really good too, because you can like unpack what's in your mind and explore your inner thoughts. And I think if you don't do that, you succumb to social media and social expectations, and that's why so many people are anxious and stressed and like, oh, I want to be like that person. I'm not good enough. I hate myself. And there's all this mental health problems. It's like you should explore that more rather than drowning it in alcohol or Netflix.
Yes.
You still do those things.
Yeah.
But like, don't not do this other thing and then wonder why you're, unhappy.
But the other thing is though, you can choose not to do those things as well, like Netflix and alcohol. We do sometimes have, or some people, I'm one of them, I just thought you kind of had to drink. I gave up alcohol. And
I basically have too.
Yeah, but the person I was, a few years ago, like I just wouldn't have even, never occurred to me that I could just not drink.
Yeah.
And, that's one of the things for me. I don't know if I really ever enjoyed it that much, to be honest. So, but I drank a lot over the years, and I'm thinking that's probably done a lot of damage to me. And yeah, it's a masking agent, and it caused a whole heap of anxiety for me, especially the next day. And for what?
Well, I think it's another one of those things that requires context, because like some of the best moments of my life have been DJing and there's drink. Like alcohol is the cause of a lot of bad things, but it's also like present in a lot of great memories. So it's like, I'm not being like, don't drink alcohol. Alcohol is bad. But obviously, like...
But you don't have to, is my point.
100%, you don't have to. But I think like, if you don't enjoy it if you're doing it too much and you're just ruining your life and spending all your money on alcohol, it's real bad. And look, now that we're saying it, more often than not, it's a bad thing. But I just don't want to preach here like, don't drink alcohol, because I have drunk a lot of it DJing in my years.
Yeah, so have I.
But yeah, I've never been an alcoholic or anything like that, and that's when it's getting bad. But it got to a point for me where I was like, for a while it was like, okay, it's kind of fun, and now it's like, okay, the hangovers are worse than the drinking, and now it's like, well, I don't even enjoy the drinking, so why both are bad?
Yes.
I don't want to do this, and I have to pay for the next day. And like when I'm hungover, even if I had 2 cocktails the other day, or a couple of weeks ago, and I wasn't hungover, but I was like so lethargic. I didn't go to the gym. I didn't eat right. I didn't do work. It was a Sunday, but still, I normally do some work on a Sunday. But it's like, it's not worth it for me.
Yeah, the cost, and I'm not talking about the financial cost necessarily,
it's real bad
keeps adding up over time. So, so I'm certainly at the stage where I'm basically punting the whole next day, and I can't do anything. Eat poorly, I don't do any work, and if I do, I'm struggling through it, and it's shit quality anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm really finding this hard to justify now.
100%. And like sometimes, like if you're really stressed, having a couple, like 2 or 3 beers does let off steam, which is good. But something that drives me mental is all these, like when COVID happened and everybody's out of work, and instead of being like, okay, what work could I get? How do I tackle this? How do I increase my personal finances so I'm not so screwed next time? They just drink alcohol. I'm like, like what is it, cider Tuesdays or whatever. It's just like any reason to drink. I'm like, this is not the answer. This is probably the reason you're in this situation. It's because you haven't planned out this stuff because you've been too busy drinking and, you know, spending $20 a pop on espresso martinis that you can't afford just to be like, oh, I went to this place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, am I a millennial? I don't know where it crosses over from millennial to Gen Z or whatever.
I reckon you would be.
Yeah. But
I'm like right in the middle.
Yeah.
So you would be, I reckon.
Our generation has a problem with like, yeah, just not taking life seriously enough, I think. But some people look at me and go, oh, well, you know, you should live in the moment. Like, smell the roses. I'm like, yes, you can do that and plan your life out for the future and not destroy yourself when you're like, have fun when you're young. But like, I don't know, planning for the future is like, well, that's what old people do. I'm like, I'm going to have a much happier, healthier, abundant, successful life because I have put some thought into what I want to do when I'm older.
Yes, because we are going to get older.
And I can still have fun as when you're young. Anyway, that's a whole other discussion for another day.
Yeah, well, good. But I do want to still touch on so we go into the health treat, and you've got some therapist. You go into a therapist. You go into a success performance coach. I want to know the difference between what a success / performance coach is, and if I'm explaining that wrong, just correct me. And what a therapist does.
Well, I mean, it depends on the therapist and the success coach. From my experience, a success coach is more about like performance, and a therapist is more about like exploring feelings and deep-seated things and why you feel a certain way. Success coach might be like motivation, removing obstacles in the context of this will help you perform better or be more confident or have more sales or whatever. The success coach, Glenn Azar, is the guy I spoke to, and he was great. And he's got an interesting style of coaching where it's like, let's just chat and take it where it goes. So some people might have like modules of like, we're going to do this, that. He didn't do that, which I appreciate. The therapist, though, she was wonderful. I actually went to BetterHelp. I'm not affiliated with them at all, so I'm not like, use code Mitch20 for 20% off. That's not the case. I just use them as because I was on a podcast. It's like affordable therapy. And it's like, I don't know, what do they pay? It's like $80 a month or something. I don't know. It's super cheap. And then I got 1 hour a week with this lady. And the first girl wasn't very good, so I got a different one, and she was wonderful. And she was in Florida, randomly. It wasn't even like a local person. Because therapy here is really expensive.
Okay.
Which is important if you need it, but not everyone can afford it. And I was like, I don't know if I want it, so I'm just going to try it. I don't want to spend $1,000 just to see if I may or may not want this. Because some of them here are like $250 an hour, something absurd. She was great. She helped me with, they're sort of brutally honest. Like, you'll say things as you've always said them, and they'll go, why are you saying it like that? Or, well, why do you think this is the case? And you're like, And someone can have a completely third party objective view of your feelings and your thoughts. And she helped me reframe certain things and certain ways I looked at the world, and like, I feel this way, but it's because of this. And she was like, why are you saying it's because of this? Have you ever thought maybe it's this? And I'm like, that's a really good point. And it's like, it's much easier to give advice than take your own advice type thing.
Yeah.
But in short, I think, success coach is more about like performance, and the therapy is more about like deep-seated feelings and emotional stuff, I guess.
Could you give like a quick example of both? Like, what would you address in therapy, like a really quick example, and what would you do in performance coaching?
I'll give a quick.
I'm not saying quick because
I do that. I'm a rambler. I apologize to all the listeners. Success coach is more about like, okay, where are you trying to go? How are we going to get there? What's holding you back? How do we overcome that? Very strategic. Therapy is more like, there is no strategy. It's like, why do you feel this way? Have you thought about it this way?
It's like an exploration almost.
Yeah. And it's like, success is more like, I'm here, I want to get to there. Therapy is like, why do you feel this way?
Okay. That will probably
suffice as a quick answer.
Yeah. But are you still doing both?
I stopped therapy because I stopped needing it. Yeah. And I was getting to a point where I was like trying to come up with things to say during the week. So I'm like, this is good. And she said that's her goal. She was like, look, the best thing I can do is for you to not need me. But I've reached out to her lately because I'm like, hey, I'd love to talk about some things. I don't need it every week, but I'm keen to explore things. And once you have someone that can like, have you ever seen the TV show Billions?
No.
There's a woman on there named Wendy, and she's like the performance person. And every time like a trader's like having something's wrong with him, she'd fix him up. So it's kind of good. She was kind of like that, where I'd say, I'm thinking this, and she'd help me reframe it. And she helped me overcome like, because I got bullied in high school, and that was still sitting with me, and I kind of used that as motivation and energy, but it also came with the cost of like overthinking things and doubting yourself and blah blah blah. And she helped me overcome that, which was massive, because that was like my biggest wound, I suppose, and literally helped me completely overcome it.
Right. And so what was that like to just not have to carry that anymore?
Oh man.
Did you feel that? Like, did you feel it like just drop off you though? Or
it was gradual. It took a while.
Yeah, okay.
Because like there was a big thing of like, she's like, you know, you need to try and forgive these people, and I'm like, at first I was like, fuck that.
Yeah.
No way. I want to destroy, and it makes you vicious. It makes you like, I want to destroy this person's relationship, their career, their everything. I want to take everything away from them because they took everything from me.
Yes.
Which is a horrible way to think. And but you can't. It's kind of like a dark fire that does get you energetic and going and motivated. Because every time you're having a bad day, you're like, I'm just going to do it for this guy who I want to be more successful than.
Yeah.
But that's not a good way to live your life. So it sort of changed in the way I actually did forgive some of these people, and I reached out to them personally and messaged them, and I actually spoke to one of them on the phone and said, hey, look, and that was the tipping point. I was like, when I'm ready to do that, I'll be okay with this. It's funny, before then I went to a rage cage, which like you can, have you been to one of those?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. And I think I saw a photo of you there.
Yeah,
actually.
you did, yeah.
Yeah. And you can write people's names on the plates and smash it and stuff like that. And that's also when that client I had that was horrible.
Okay.
Yeah. And then so that was like, there is no world where I can forgive this. Like, what do you mean forgive them? Like what, you know, whatever. But then I finally came around, and that really helped, like, not nail in the coffin, that's a bad way to put it. That was like I've let it go.
Right.
Finally. And now I really don't care what people say about me. Or if you don't like the way that I'm doing something, too bad. As long as I'm being a good person, like, I don't really care what you think about it. Whereas before, I'd be like, oh, what if they think this? Oh, gee, I shouldn't have said that. Or, oh, I want to be liked by this person.
You know what's interesting? That's not what you said in the last episode.
What was I saying last time?
You were saying what you're saying now, that you don't care what people think and this and
I was
that.
lying.
Yeah, right.
I mean, look, I wish that were true back then. It sort of depends, because like...
You seem to believe it at the time, though. Like, you can say something in the moment and think you believe it.
Yeah, it sort of depends. Like, in certain contexts, I wouldn't have cared. Like, if someone doesn't like my DJing or something, I'm like, I don't care, because I'm a good DJ and people love it. But whereas some things, I'd still be like, oh, I don't want to say this because that person might think I'm a this or whatever. But now it's like, I don't care.
Okay.
And in 5 years, I'll tell you that I was lying in that second one. No, I genuinely feel that way now. But not just that. Like, that's one of the benefits of overcoming it. But just like, yeah, it's just a weight off your shoulders.
Yeah,
and like
of course.
not thinking about these people ever. I used to have a list. I used to have a revenge list on my phone where it's like, there's like 8 or 9 people on here that I'm going to crush one day, and I wanted to like crush them.
Yeah.
Like publicly humiliate them when I'm successful.
Right.
Which is awful. Like, you shouldn't even have that in your heart. Do you know what I mean?
Like in the Notes app or something, you had a...
Yeah.
Right.
And then when that client happened, I'm like, I'm going to add this guy to the list. But now, honestly, like, I messaged them all and said, hey, look, you may not even know this, but you really made my life like a living hell for a little... Well, I said, you really gave me a difficult time. You might not have known you're doing it. But I just want you to know, like, you really hurt me on a deep level. And that I've held on that for years. But I've decided, like, there's no point me hanging on to this. I hope you're well. If you hadn't done it, I wouldn't be the person I am. So I just wanted you to know this is how you made me feel, and I forgive you for it. And I hope you all the best, because I'm, whatever. And I think there were 3 people I messaged. They were like the 3 big ones, because other people that are just annoying. But like 3 people were like, I really can't stop thinking about these 3 people. But 2 of them replied. One of them invited me to his wedding. I was like, look, buddy,
what?
I mean, we're not mates. I'm just forgiving you.
Oh my God.
But yeah, and one of them was like shocked. Like, what do you mean? I never. And so it was really interesting, because I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking that they're like watching me every day. Like, oh yeah, look at Mitch being this. Yeah. When realistically, they didn't even know that they did it. They haven't even thought about me in 10 years.
Yeah.
So you can live with this like false reality of like, and it's only hurting you.
Yes.
And I think, is it a Buddha quote? I'm terribly sorry if this isn't a Buddha quote, but it's like, if you're seeking revenge, dig 2 graves.
Right.
Which is like, you're going down with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like some other saying about like hating someone's like drinking poison and hoping that they die from it. I've heard that one before.
And there's another one that's like, if someone gives you a gift and you don't want it, you give it back. So it's like you're choosing to accept their toxicity and stuff in your body. And the one other thing I'll say about this, sorry, I know this is a terribly long-winded answer. I used to admire people like, you haven't seen Billions, but Bobby Axelrod, like Harvey Specter, like those kind of like boss, quote unquote, boss mentalities where it's like no one messes with them because they're this badass guy who dominates everybody. And I was talking to the therapist, I'm like, oh, like I see, it's a TV show, but like everybody respects Bobby Axelrod because no one messes with Bobby Axelrod. And she was like, people don't respect him, they fear him. And do you want to be remembered the way that you remember your bullies? And I was like, no, that's a really good point. And she was like, well, why do you want to be, like, you're trying to be successful enough so that you can be powerful enough where no one can like mess with you or whatever. And for a while there, that's what I wanted, which now is completely the opposite. And it's because I was hanging on to that like need to dominate these certain few people who dominated me once upon a time. This is a really deep conversation, but like and then because one of my other heroes is Richard Branson, who is the complete opposite. He's like, I want to see other people succeed. I love that side of business. So I was in two minds. Half of me was Richard Branson, half of me was Bobby Axelrod. One of them was like, I want to help people and create jobs. And the other one was like, I want to destroy people. So that helped let me go. And then I realized, Bobby Axelrod is he's not a good person. He's just a cool character.
Yeah, right. This is incredible. I'm just still wondering, like that contact was what was really significant in the healing.
Huge.
Yeah, right.
And so if you're listening to this and there's someone in your life who you've just got, like, you've just been hanging, maybe it's an ex, maybe it's someone that's just lingering, and I promise you they're probably not thinking the same about you, so it's only hurting you, just send them a message and just say, hey, I just wanted you to know this is what happened. I hope you're well and I forgive you, even if this sounds absurd. You're like, or even someone that you were friends with and you disconnected with over something silly that now years have gone by and you're not friends with that person anymore. Just reach out to them.
Yeah. Wow.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think if there's anyone that I can hit up.
You have to go.
And then I don't have the list on my phone, but I've got maybe a few real estate agents in mind. But but the thought of kind of reaching out to them, I'm still trying to see the point of it.
It was weird, man. Like, and that's how I moved on from it. Maybe it's not the same for you. And I remember one of them called me. And like my heart was I'm like still kind of, I was like terrified. I was like so just anxious because seeing this person's name made me want to like punch a hole in the wall. Like I really strongly disliked this person.
So you had them on your phone though? Like, did it pop up with their name when they called?
That's what surprised me. I must have had his number once upon a time because the first one, my mate. Oh, this is actually a really funny story. What happened? No, I texted a friend of mine and I said, hey, can I get your opinion on this? And it's what I was going to send the other guy because he knows the other guy. And he was like, I'm with him now. And I was like, I just didn't reply because I'm like, why are you being an asshole? Like, you're sort of making fun of me when I'm trying to talk to you about this thing. But he literally was with him. And then he called me and it's like, hey, it's this person. And I was like, whoa, not ready for this conversation.
Wow.
But then eventually I came around, I was like, okay, it's just one of those things, like your irrational fears of something. Like sometimes you just got to do it. Like I used to be terrified of cold calling as well.
Yes.
I still kind of am.
Yeah.
But once you start doing it, you just overcome it and you're like, wow, this isn't as bad as I made it out to be. And the longer you put it off, the bigger the fear will grow.
Yes. Very true.
I'm still never going to go bungee jumping though because I'm terrified of that. And I don't think it serves me any practical use to do it.
I have to ask how the conversation went before we move on.
So he was, I can't remember exactly what happened, but he was like super confused of like, oh man, what the hell? Like he thought he
was the confused guy, was he?
Yeah, he thought he hadn't done anything.
Oh, right.
And then I think, oh no, he apologized and then he did a complete 180. It was like, oh man, you shouldn't have done, like, grow some balls, this, that. And I was just like, complete flip. And I was like, wow, okay. I thought we got somewhere, but you're still, whatever. But honestly, I didn't care. I was like, hey, whatever. Like, I kind of expected this because you're kind of a shitty person. But then he came back again, which made me think, oh no, like, and this might sound insensitive. I was like, what if he's like not all there? I just don't know. I don't know him well enough. Maybe I've just, I don't know. Now I'm in this really awkward situation where I like sort of pity this person a little bit. I'm still confused about it.
Wow.
But okay. I don't know. It's weird, but I've moved on. I hope he's well.
Yeah.
Hope they're all well.
Mm-hmm.
I have no, hatred for anybody anymore.
Deleted the names from the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
He's tried calling me a couple times, like late at night, and I'm like super confused. Maybe he's drinking. I don't know. It's
Right,
weird.
that's weird.
Super weird. And then that's the thing. Maybe he was just like kind of obsessed with me the whole time.
Yeah.
And he was like jealous in some weird way. And now he like wants to be friends with me. It's weird.
Yeah.
Bizarre situation.
Okay. So long as you're safe, that's the main thing. Yeah, all right. We'll move on from this part because the other things that was interesting about your story is, I don't know if you did this at this time, but hiring your fiance to work alongside you.
Yeah.
I read that and I thought, I don't have a fiance, but I would. The times that I've worked with friends and worked with people I've known, and I would never go into business with family. It was like, ooh, I kind of felt a little jolt hearing about that.
That's interesting because that's another thing where people go, oh, don't work with family, or it's bad this.
Yeah.
Look, it depends on the person and the context. As with anything, context matters, because some people have amazing family businesses, and it all comes down to clear boundaries and communication and addressing the worst possible situation before you even start. Don't just go, oh yeah, it'll be great, and then that's it. Go, what could happen? Okay, and that was I can't remember, I think it was one of my mentors, Martin. He's like, talk about in these, like, if there's a decision you don't agree with, who calls the shots? What happens if this happens? And set boundaries. Like, he was like, no work in the bedroom. You're not allowed to do any work in the bedroom. And then stuff like that. It was like, you need to have clear, especially because we work from home.
Yeah.
So we're together all the time.
Yeah.
But communication is so important. But I've got I don't know what other engaged people are like, but I've got a very unique situation where we're very open and honest. I can tell what she's thinking before she even says it, and vice versa. And we know we won't let something sweep under the rug. Like, we'll address it then and there. We have had those decisions. Like, we did say, okay, I said, look, I'll never pull rank and be like an annoying boss, but like, if there's a decision that has to be made, like, I am the CEO, it's like, I will make the decision. How does that make you feel?
Yeah.
What if you don't like it?
Yeah.
What if I have to do something that you don't think is right? Then what do we do? And we address that at the start.
Right.
And now we work together great, and she's amazing, and I don't know what I'd do without her.
Wow.
In the business and my personal life.
Yeah, right. So, and I'm not sure if you're comfortable with me talking revenue. It's
Go for it.
all good. But you talked about being stuck at 20 odd K a month. So I'm selling you a bit short. But and you're stuck at that point. Was this around the same time? That June 2020, like.
Yeah, that was a long time. It was literally like 2 years.
Right.
Like 20K.
Yeah.
Anywhere between 20 and 25, and then 1 month we did 27. I was like, oh, we're getting somewhere, and then we went back down to, 19, 20. And I was just stuck there, and it was because I was at capacity. I needed to hire more people. But I was like, oh, am I earning enough to hire people? But since she started, a combination of things, rebranding outside of real estate, so I have more excitement for it, diversifying our services, hiring her, hiring a copywriter, hiring some more people. Now, within 3 months of her starting, we got to 40K, which is literally double. And we've been about 37 since then. It'll be 40, and then actually, we just got another client, so it might be 45. We've done 45 before. And I was like, wow, this is a lot more than before. And I'm happier, and working less is bizarre. But there's a really good African proverb that's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
And it's so relevant in business.
Yeah. But making that decision to hire someone can be difficult because you don't necessarily feel ready. So what was that? How did you make that decision?
It was more her decision, to be honest.
Okay.
Because she was taking the bigger risk than I was. Because she was making pretty good money managing a recruiting firm in the city.
Okay.
And she was a gun. She was like a top biller. She was really good paycheck. But kind of miserable because the boss was super toxic and not a good workplace. Yeah. And so I was like, well,
there's a few of them kicking around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, you can come to work for me, but I can't pay 140K a year.
Yeah.
So she was like, and bless her, she's taken lots of risks with her career, like moved from things that are huge risks, but did it anyway, which I super admire about her. Like, everyone says entrepreneurship's risky, but like, that's pretty risky, completely changing careers for a huge pay cut. Like, that takes balls, and she's done it multiple times. And then she did it for me. And I was like, look, the pay is going to be pretty bad, at the start, but the goal is to get it up. And so we've sort of been increasing it probably like every month. And now we're getting somewhere good.
Yep.
But you took that jump and, oh yeah. Like they talk a lot about A players in business, or like, you know, in basketball, there's like superstars, all-stars, stars, and then like role players.
Yeah, sure.
When you've been if you've never had a superstar on your team, you don't know what it's like. And then you get a superstar and you're like, my God, look how much better this business is.
Yeah, okay.
And so she's a superstar.
Right.
Yeah. Huge impact on the business.
Yeah, I'm just just processing all this. It's really cool that it's worked out. I'm just thinking of times when I have perhaps made decisions like that, and I've made it because it was right there. Like someone was right there to say
like
yes
a
to.
short-term solution to a long-term problem.
Like it was easy. Like you didn't. Did that cross your mind? That am I just taking? And I know it wasn't easy for her, but it was.
Yeah.
Surely it felt easy for you in the sense that you knew this person pretty well, and like it was.
Well, like there's situations where like I've worked with a contractor in the past who's been okay, but instead of me doing the research and finding a new one, I just go back to them because they're there out of convenience, and that doesn't always get great results. It's fine, but it doesn't get great results. Whereas like recently, I actually went out, hired someone, and she's a gun, and I'm so glad that I did, because if I didn't, I'd still be working with like subpar people. So with Kaz though, I took it much more seriously, because I'm like, this is our relationship. And I said to her, I will always put the relationship before the business. I will drop the business in a second if it means that we don't work out. So let's get that clear from the start. Now, I'd rather not do that, because that'd be pretty bad for me.
Yeah.
But if at any point, and you can leave at any point, let's just talk about it. Like, I'd never want you to feel trapped or whatever. But no, it was more of a risk for her than for me. Because for me, it was great. I mean, she's like, I'm getting a $140K a year employee for much less than that.
Yeah. Okay.
And she can really help me out. And there was an adjustment period big time. And it's tough for her if she's having a shitty day and she needs to rant about it to someone, but like can't really rant about it to me, because like used to rant about it to me, but now I'm like your boss. So it's kind of but just getting around that. And like we knew there were going to be teething issues, but now like, oh, she's great. Okay.
Really cool. Wow, you've shared a lot today. Is there anything else? I'm kind of just a bit lost for words at the moment.
I'm a bit of a shotgun with information.
Is there anything else you wanted to say? Like, is there other business advice or other business stories that have come up now that have happened perhaps recently? You know, now that we're coming up to 2021 and things sound like they're going quite well at the moment.
Yeah, they are going well. I think something happened last week. I was like, okay, now that we're growing, what does it look like to get to $1 million a year? And so I was like, okay, what would that look like? Like, how big does our team need to be? What clients do we need to have? Blah, blah, blah. And so I was in a cafe and my mate called me and he was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just planning out how to get to $1 million. And he's like, why do you want to get to $1 million? And I was like, that's a really good question. And he's like, well, why? And I was like, well, to be honest, I just want to see what it would look like. And he's like, but why even look at it at all? Like, what are you trying to achieve? And I was like, well, I want to live comfortably. I want to have spare time and I want to give to charity. And he's like, okay, well, what does living comfortable mean? How much is that? What does having spare time mean? And how much charitable work do you want to do? So I think like getting super specific on what you actually want, and that ties into my other thing of like growth for the sake of growth isn't good. There's this expectation of like, get as big as you can, as fast as you can. And if you're not growing, you suck at business and you're dying. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, you don't have to have this crazy thing. Like I'd rather have a team of 10 and 20 clients and either work from home or have a small office than have a tri-level office with 100 employees and all these big name clients. Like I don't want that. And that's okay to not want that. Like everybody, I think in business, some people define success for everybody where it's like, this is what you should do. Well, just do what you want to do.
Yes.
Like I like working from home and having a small team and working with my dog and my cat and being able to, go to bed at a reasonable hour rather than have to work 15 hours a day.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with working 15 hours a day, but I don't want that. I've done that. It sucks.
So there is something wrong with it then.
Yeah. For me personally. But like if you don't, I don't know, like I want to be able to spend time with my fiance and my pets and have fun.
Yeah.
And see my friends. Whereas some people might just want money. That's it.
I'm very skeptical that many people do 15 hours of productive work a day.
That's another thing. It's like, 15 hours, just working for 15 hours doesn't mean that it's good hours. Like, I genuinely think I'm really efficient and I plan out my day and I delegate stuff that I shouldn't do. So in 5 hours, I can get like a lot of good, high quality work done.
Yeah.
And then I end up pissing around the rest of the time. So still I'm doing way too much work, but it is possible.
Yes. Yeah. Sounds like you're getting there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
It's I think we might wrap up there because I think we've covered a hell of a lot today before we and people can listen to this and then wait the next 5 years and
we'll be back
come
again.
back and we'll see how you feel about what you said today.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome to share all that stuff. I hope that you're comfortable putting all that out there because it was really
100%. Like, that's another thing. Sorry, I won't make this a tangent. People need to be more honest with themselves and with others.
Yes.
It's okay to talk about, I'm struggling with this. It's okay to also be like, I'm really proud of this. Like, you don't have to feel guilty about, like, if you've done something good, be proud of it. And if you've done something bad, that's okay to, you don't have to be Superman all the time. Just do what makes you happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is what I did want this podcast to be about. So real business owners, real stories. So
yeah,
awesome that you were happy to talk about all that stuff, because let's be honest, that's the stuff that gets in the way. You know, with the technical work, a lot of us can do.
Yeah.
You know, it's the stressful situations, it's all the other shit going on.
And I think you have to have humility to be able to recognize that in yourself and go, is this what I should be doing? How can I make this better? What are these, like, people get too caught up in, and that's why I run a social media company, so I can't bash social media too much, but people do get caught up in that, how do I look online versus how am I actually?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And working with a lot of people who are like, oh, make me look sick online. Like, how are you though? And I think, like, even though you got to have humility, ironically, like, and I don't want to, this is an egotistical thing to say, but I'm more successful than a lot of people my age who flex real hard on social media because they're trying so hard to look successful. They haven't spent enough time actually being successful.
Yes.
It's like the thing if you stop chasing money, you'll make more money, which I never could understand. But now I get it because I'm doing stuff I actually like. And I'm not worried about the money because the money will come. And now I make more money and work less. It's weird.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Well, yeah, I mean, and you might not like this part, but I actually hardly use social media now. I try not to.
You might be better off.
Yeah. Well, no, I was in social media. I did social media marketing for a while myself. And I realized one day this is not for me. It's sort of too stimulating or something for me. I'm not my thing. And yeah, again, just another thing that you don't have to do all the things you're telling yourself that you have to do or have to feel or have to.
We don't have to do anything.
I know, and that's the thing. Hey?
Like, I mean, don't be a shit person.
Yeah.
Like, there's some things you should not do.
Yeah.
But there's
stabbing's bad, robbing's bad.
Yeah, all that basic stuff is bad. Being racist is bad, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like a lot of things that there's societal expectations of this is normal, therefore do, like, it goes for everything. Mental health. Men can't have feelings. Oh, feelings are for pussies. We drink beer and, you're doing this. Like, such this old, archaic, stupid way of thinking of like, oh, we're not allowed to express ourselves. And another thing, like, you and I, we're both vegans. It's like, oh, you have to, or you can't, you have to eat meat. That's like how it is. Or you have to do this. Or like, oh, but other people are doing it. We've done it for ages. Therefore, we should do it.
Yes.
Like, you don't have to do anything.
Yes.
Anyway.
There's a lot of people that use this is the way we've always done it.
Which is such...
It's a terrible way of
reasoning. Well, we used to have slaves for ages. We've always done that. It's like, oh, we better keep doing it. No. Once upon a time, women were treated as less than men. Doesn't mean I moved on. And people who go, oh, one person can't make a difference, so what's the point? What are you talking about? All the key revolutions in history have been from one person. Imagine Martin Luther King and be like, no, buddy, just honestly, don't worry. What are we going to do? Who cares?
Yeah, and if you take that too far as well, though, you're only one person. Well, why have a rule for anything? Why have laws?
Why exist?
Why do anything?
Why don't you just kill yourself? Because we have no purpose. Like, you can't think like that.
No.
So like this one guy who was like, oh man, like, because I'm a vegan and he is like so far down the other end. He's like Joe Rogan bro science, meat is the way type thing. And I was like, and he goes, oh man, honestly, what's the point? Like, it doesn't matter. If I buy an electric car, it's just going to some other billionaire to make more money, to make the world worse. Like, nothing I do makes a difference. And I was like, that's such a sad way of looking at the world. There's this really good parable. Have you heard about the jellyfish on the beach thing? I'll tell this really quickly. It's a great story.
Oh, I have. Maybe I have, but tell it anyway. Yeah.
This is a great message for people listening. So there's, sometimes all the jellyfish wash up on the shore, and there's like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of them. And this old man is walking down the beach, and he sees all this jellyfish, and in the distance he sees this boy walking towards him, and he's bending down and throwing stuff. And as he gets closer, he realizes he's throwing the jellyfish in the ocean. And he walks up to him and he's like, can I ask what you're doing? And he said, I'm tossing some of the jellyfish back in. And he said, there's so many, like, what's the point? It's not going to make a difference. And he picks one up and throws it in and says, it made a difference to that one. So that's kind of the way I look at it. It's like one person can't change the world, but lots of people together can change the world. And I think when you have the mentality of, oh man, what's the point? You're just part of the problem. You're part of the problem.
Yeah, right. And it's the old man questioning the young boy in that one, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's like, what's the point?
Yeah, but I would have thought it would be the other way around. The old man with his wisdom throwing it in. But no, it's a young guy.
Child with his innocence.
Yeah, right. Who hasn't been corrupted by society yet.
It's funny you mention that because like when we talk about when you're young and you haven't experienced life yet and you read motivational quotes or you see stuff that's a very simplistic way of looking at the world and you buy into this simplistic view because life hasn't kicked you in the balls yet and you don't realize that it's not actually that simple. Like when I was younger, I would put some really lame quotes up. My God, I just in the whole motivational thing. It's like that's not practical in real life. Like when you grow up and you realize, oh, you can't actually do that. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff I did when I was younger that I wish I didn't do.
We're all in that boat, mate. Don't worry about that. All right. Who should reach out to you if someone's listening? Who do you want to talk to? How can they get in touch?
I mean, like from a personal level, I'm more than happy to talk to anyone about anything, whether it's personal stuff, motivational stuff, getting started in business. From a client's perspective, we help socially conscious organizations increase their revenue and awareness with marketing. So if that's you, we can help. But other than that, like I really enjoy helping people with I have nothing to gain. I just like helping other people, whether they want to learn how to start a business, they want to do this, they want to eat a plant-based diet. I'm more than happy to talk to them about it. So
cool.
Anyone and anyone can reach out to me.
How can they find you?
Hit me up on Instagram, just Mitch Hills. If you're interested in the business, you can look at masteredmarketing.com. But yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm all the same name, Mitch Hills.
Mitch Hills, yeah. Very good. Well, thanks for coming back.
Hey, pleasure. Sorry for rambling.
No, it was good episode. Great to hear all that. And I'll see you in 5 years.
I'll see you in 5 years.
Thanks, Mitch.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Push Podcast. Show notes can be found at bethepush.com/podcast and clicking on the relevant episode link. Remember to subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.